a good stance. We're right-handed, we put our right foot out, put our left foot in the instep, slide out to about shoulder width, bend the knees, and stick the butt out. The head is always in the center of the body, and the butt is out. If you don't stick your butt out, it's going to be sitting down. You won't be able to play basketball. There's nothing you can do in basketball without a stance. No stance.
No. So the first thing I want you to focus on, and if you're on a hoop, you can go out and kind of try this. If you're in your living room, you can stand up and try this. I want you to try and get your feet hip width apart when you shoot the basketball. Okay? A lot of coaches, they talk about being shoulder width apart. That idea is not wrong. The only reason I talk about hip width apart instead of shoulder width apart is it's easier to see. If you're a player right now, try and look at both of your shoulders at the same time. See if you can look at both of your shoulders at the same time. And it's hard. You can't really see them. So it should be a reference point. It's easier to see our hips. Our hips are the same width as our shoulders. Now, I measure this by the insides of your feet. Okay? So if you're a player and you're just kind of standing in your living room, feel free to just kind of jump forward, like jump stop forward, jump stop to your side. See if you can land with your feet hip width apart as you're shooting. Try and rotate your body. Next thing that we're going to talk about, create good energy with your feet by pointing your toes at the target. Okay? We want to try and make sure that we're creating energy that helps us make shots, and your feet and your ankles create a lot of energy within the shot. Okay? Try it right now if you're a player. Get your feet nice and wide apart, point your toes straight forward, and then rock up onto your toes and feel where your belly button goes. Your belly button.
That you can use 2 legs, 10 toes pushing. Come on, let's drive those toes. Good. The shot starts from those 10 toes pushing into the floor. Excellent. That's a good job.
I want you to try and focus on being in an athletic stance. Okay? We're going to try and get the weight of our feet onto our toes. Maybe not like right onto the toes, but forward in your foot. Maybe right around the ball of your foot. Okay? We want to keep our hips back and our shoulders forward. So you're going to bend your ankles, you're going to bend your knees, and you're going to bend your hips. And the hips are the one that most people forget about. They end up with their shoulders over top of their hips. We want to get our shoulders over top of our knees. Okay? If you're in this kind of an athletic position to start your shot, you can control your shooting motion better. Okay?
From this position, above the shooting eye, if you're right-handed, there's perfect position. My elbow's as high as my shoulder, and my thumb is above my eye, and I'm looking at my target right under the thumb, and I'm using my legs. I'm putting in that stance and that good push from the floor. Let's do it again. Balance the ball, lift it above the eye, and use our legs to extend. You stronger, it's going to make you quicker, and it's going to make you more consistent. And I call it the shot pocket, because what you're doing is putting the ball behind the wrist. Behind the back of the hand is pressing the ball, the elbow's in line, so it touches, the inside of your arm touches your shirt. So you put that in that pocket. You all can try it if you want. And I'm going to show you why we do this. Everybody do what I'm doing. Get in your stance now. And have that left hand ready to shoot. That's good. All we're doing is lifting the ball till it touches my face. Notice I didn't raise my body. All I did was raise the ball. I didn't do this. All I did was just lift the ball, okay? That's very good. That's a good job. Excellent. That's very good. Make sure
we need to make sure that we get that set point high enough that we can get our hand underneath the basketball, but not so high that we don't that we've already lifted the elbow and we don't have room to lift it further in the shooting motion. Okay, so we want to make sure that we don't get in here where our hand can't get underneath the ball. We continue on to a high set point with our elbow low enough that we can still be moving up. This is what creates arc. Your hand underneath the basketball and then lifting the elbow with your hand underneath it. That's where most of your arc comes from. Focus when you do this on making 3 sides of the square. So you can see here Cooper, the player in this picture, in the right-hand video or right-hand photograph, you can see what looks like 3 sides of a square in his arm. That's the kind of position that we want to be in when we get to our set point or we move through our set point. There's those 3 sides of the square. Elbows nice and low. It can lift. The first motion out of this position is going to be a lifting motion. What happens with a lot of players, especially young players, if they do get high enough here that their first motion is forward with their hand. We don't want forward first. This will make a flat shot. We want to try and go up first. So the first motion once we get to the set point should still be moving up. And if we're going to do that, we need to make sure that our wrist stays engaged as long as we can. We don't want to go up and then be lifting and snapping our wrist both at the same time. Now we're on the back of the ball. We're going to be pushing forward. We need to make sure that we get underneath, keep underneath, and create a lifting motion. So it will be elbow up and then wrist snapping. As you're lifting, I want you to try and get your elbow above your eyes as the ball leaves your hands. A lot of coaches will say the elbow above your eyes part. We need to add on to
that. Thread position with the ball and back of the wrist, the ball and back of the wrist, the shot pocket. Okay, now here's how we're going to use this. We're going to put the other ball here, put your hand on this ball, you're ready to shoot it. Now when you lift and this ball hits you in the face, go ahead. Okay, I'm going to take this ball out. Now, can you shoot the ball? Use your legs and shoot the ball. Okay, let's do it again. Let's move in a little bit closer. Okay, you've got your shot pocket all set. Lift it till it hits your face. Let me take the ball out. Now use your legs and shoot the ball. Now we are manufacturing a perfect shot. Isn't that a great way to manufacture a shot? This is so important. You have the, now, if no one's around, how would you do this yourself if I were not here to help you? What would you do? How would you get rid of this ball? Well, you do it that way, right? That's one way. Okay, what's another way you could get rid of that ball? How about if you took your left hand off and just knocked it out? Let's try it again. You're all by yourself. Okay, get your stance. Feel comfortable, lift it. Lift it first. Lift it till it touches your face. We want that elbow as high as your shoulder now. Lift that elbow as high as your shoulder. Now, knock the ball out. That's perfect. Okay? Dan, you want to try?
Because you can be too late or too early. Okay? If you're late, or sorry, early with your elbow above your eyes, you lift, you get the elbow above your eyes, but the ball hasn't left your hand yet. You can't lift your elbow anymore, and your hand is going to be going forward, then down at the end of your shot. Down doesn't make up very good one. Okay? Get into this position and then shooting from here. We also don't want to be in this position and now the ball's leaving my hand and then my elbow gets above my eyes. This will be a flat shot and this move is meaningless. This will be a flat shot, and the elbow being above the eyes too early was the cause of it. Getting the elbow above the eyes as the ball is leaving your hand, as your wrist is snapping, that's the key to getting good arc on the shot.
But now we're going to really emphasize holding our follow-through so the ball comes down on the back of our hand. And I will demo this drill. We don't have to shoot the ball high. We're going 1, 2, high, halo. And there's the ball. Look where it is. My hand is way up here in the follow-through. So I want everyone to practice that drill. 1, 2, high, halo. Okay? 1, 2, high, halo. I want that follow-through going high into the halo. This is probably the most important part of your shot. I have seen some ugly shots in my travels over the years, and yet the bottom line is if you put that hand in the basket, you've got a good chance to succeed. So if you put your hand high into that halo, chances are if you messed up somewhere along the line, you might still get away with scoring your goal. To me, the extension is so critical.
Where should we aim? What are we looking at when we start to shoot the basketball? I want you to pick one of those coils where the net attaches to the rim. And you're going to pick the one that is at the middle of the back of the rim. So the coil that is farthest from you no matter where you're standing. Okay? And I've made arrows here to kind of show which coil you would aim at depending on where you're standing. So if you're standing in front of this rim, then you'll be aiming at the coil with the bigger arrow. Okay? This would be the farthest one from you. If you're aiming up, starting over the baseline, you'll be aiming for this coil. If we were looking at this hoop and we were the shooters ourselves, we might be looking for that little part where the iron attaches to the bottom of the rim. We want to make our target nice and small so that we can miss big and still have it go in. We don't want to aim for a big target, miss small, and miss. Okay? Pick a small target, give yourself lots of room to miss, and it still goes in. Why do we aim for the back of the rim instead of the front of the rim? Because you're going to get tired. And when you're tired in the game, you're going to lose energy, shots are going to come up short. Aim for the long target, give yourself room to miss short, and then have the ball still go in. Don't aim for the short target, get tired, and miss short of short and have it be an air ball. Okay? The coil at the back of the rim would be my recommendation. Bring it up, dropping it down on the rim. All right. This is probably the most important thing that I do in my live clinics. I want everybody to measure your hand. So you can either I want everybody to spread out your shooting hand, okay, nice and wide, not like you're trying to palm the basketball necessarily, but just get your thumb of your shooting hand wide and your fingers spread out comfortably wide, okay? Then take your non-shooting hand and measure this distance. So I want you to put your index fingers together and your thumbs together. This is my non-shooting hand over here. This is my shooting hand. Do that, and then measure to see if these two things are the same. So take this distance and then put it over index finger to pinky. For me, these two distances are exactly the same. From there to there is the same as here to there, which means this is the middle of my grip. Okay? Of all the players I've ever measured, I've never had anybody that finds this distance from middle finger to thumb is the same as middle finger to pinky. Okay? This is not the middle of your hand if you spread that thumb out nice and wide. There are a few people that end up being with short thumbs or inflexible thumbs or short fingers or long fingers or flexible fingers, and the middle of their grip might be right there. That would be the farthest over that I've seen. Okay? Spread that thumb out nice and wide. For most players, when you do this, this is the middle of your hand. Okay? Then we need to be able to get the middle of our hand underneath the middle of the ball as early in our shot as we can. If you can get the middle of your hand underneath the middle of the basketball, you're going to be lifting both sides of the ball evenly, and the ball's going to go straight. If you get the middle of your hand over on the right side of the ball goes to the left. If we end up with the middle of our hand over on the left side of the ball goes to the right. Okay, it's important to know what the middle of your hand is and work to get the middle of your hand underneath the bottom of the basketball as early as we possibly can in our shooting motion. The other part that's important in this, we have to get our fingers along our target line. And coaches say this a different way than I say it, and I think the way that most coaches say it misses the point. Okay, we need to get the middle of our hand along that target line on the middle of the ball. Okay, so let me grab my basketball here. I need to be underneath the middle of the ball, but I need to have my finger along that imaginary line between me and the hoop. If I can do this, then the middle of my hand, my index finger, stays on the middle of the ball all the way through, and I can lift the ball straight. If we get our fingers across the target line, then at that last moment, even if we start on the bottom of the basketball, at that last moment, we come over on the right side of the basketball and we push the ball to the left. Or if we end up with our fingers across the target line this way, at that last moment, we end up over on this side, we push the ball to the right. We have to get our finger aligned with the target so that we're pushing the middle of the basketball all the way through the shot. I talk about finger alignment. What do other coaches say? They say get your elbow in. Okay? That's not wrong. We do want our elbow in, but you can go elbow too far in. It's not the elbow that matters. It's the alignment of this finger. And we need to make sure that we're aware of that. Get the middle of your hand on the middle of the ball, and aligning it is going to help you stay on the middle of the ball all the way through the release of your shot. Okay? So we've got middle hand on the middle of the ball and the fingers along the target line. Here's a And then we want to make sure that we can create a constant within our shot. We want to make sure that our follow-through is the same, and we're getting our elbow locked every single time. We don't want to mean to get to this kind of a position where our elbow isn't locked, but we accidentally get there and the shot goes long, or we don't want to mean to get to this position, but only get to that position and the shot comes up short. Create a constant in your shot and not a variable. And the last thing here is we want to make sure that we snap our wrists. There are two reasons why. The second one is really hard to, they're both hard to explain. The first one, at least, is easy to see. So if you have a basketball, pick a spot on the floor to imagine is the hoop. So just pick, if you're on like a wood floor, you can find like a dark spot on the floor. Like just pick a small little target on the floor, take the basketball and back up about 3 or 4 steps. Okay. If you shoot a basketball without snapping your wrist, the ball won't be spinning. Okay. We want the ball spinning. And we'll spend a ton of time on the second explanation, the funneling motion, because that's a little bit harder to understand for young players. But basically, this thumb is pushing that direction, these fingers are pushing that direction, and the wrist snap causes these fingers all to funnel the ball towards the bottom of the funnel, which will cause the ball to come out here. If you didn't snap your wrist and you push slightly more with one finger, the ball's going to go in the opposite direction. That funneling motion keeps everything in the middle of the shot. Okay, so we want to be athletic, strong, and stable when we shoot basketball. While you're in this position, think about other sports that you play. Think about what it feels like to be in the back row of a volleyball game and somebody's spiking the ball at you, or you're a soccer goalie and you're defending a penalty kick. How would you stand? That's an athletic body position. You're getting ready to wrestle somebody. How would you stand? That's your athletic body position. We want to be able to shoot out of that position. Okay? Shooting the ball is an athletic thing that we do. And then the last thing with our feet that we're going to focus on, we're going to try and jump straight up and down. So I want your feet as much as you can to finish in the same position that they started. You can absolutely jump. That creates energy up in the air, but try and make the energy jump or come back in the same spot. If you can do this, okay, reading the little graphic here, we've got a player at the free throw line. That's 15 feet from the basket. If they land 15 feet from the basket, then their release point was 15 feet from the basket, and they have to shoot at 15 feet. That's very, very easy calculation to make. If they were to jump forward, well, that's good energy, but they're forcing their brain to do a more difficult calculation. And here's what the calculation might look like. Okay? You're 15 feet from the basket when you start your shot. You jump forward, and even though it's good energy, it makes the hoop a moving target. Now you're 13 feet from the basket when you land, which means your release point was somewhere probably around 14 feet, but we had forward momentum, and this is the calculation your brain has to do. Rather than just going 15, 15, 15, oh, I have to shoot 15. It goes 15, okay, wait, I'm going to land 13. Oh, I'm going to be 14 but I got forward momentum, and I have to, how far do I shoot it? Now, your brain's pretty amazing. It can do this pretty accurately, but it's just going to be more difficult.